Hello, family. It's good to see y'all again. It's your boy, your host, your brother, your son, your cousin, Javian Lorenz Moore, a senior music major, vocal performance emphasis, currently attending Morehouse College. Now, today we're going to talk about something very, very important. Now, this thing is going it's going to take you a long way. It can take you a long way if you let it. We're going to talk about networking. And of course, if we're going to talk about networking, we got to have a networking expert, none other than my brother, my friend, LTL. My boy went to Morehouse and graduated. I'm introducing him so y'all can hear from him. He gonna tell you a little bit about himself. So let's introduce our guest.
My boy, how you doing, man?
Good, brother. Good to see
All
you,
right.
man.
Yeah, same. I'm Lenarian Norwood Jr., also known as LTL. I'm a graduated communications major from Atlanta. I'm at Morehouse, and I enjoyed every bit of that college experience. If you go into college, go to an HBCU. That's the best thing I can tell you.
Come on now. That
And if
boy's
you,
speaking facts already now. He ain't lie. He ain't lie. All right, brother. So today we're gonna talk about networking, just like I just said. So, my brother, what would you say made you realize the significance of networking, or what made you feel like you had to start networking?
um, it was a life or death situation for me. See, when I was younger, uh, first off, my parents had me when they were young, babies making babies. It was around 15, 16 years old when they had me. Man, when I was younger, my dad was in prison, and my mom, she was still trying to live her life, so she was in and out. And hate to say it, I probably became the most literate person in my immediate household at around 7, 8 years old. Um, but I had to since I didn't have my father around for the first few years of my life because he was in prison, I didn't have a male figure. And so the things that, you learn from having a male figure in your household, I had to go learn it elsewhere. And in order to do that, I had to develop a relationship, right, with people to do that. So I had to sit back and look and be like, okay, what men around me, right, um, can help me, you know, develop into a man. So I latched on to teachers, principals, the doctors. When I go to the doctor, I ask them questions. So I learned that trait there. I used it in a lot of other aspects of my life.
Hmm. Okay. So being around individuals that you see doing something and gain information from them. That's good, brother. Asking questions. Okay. So for our viewers that may not be as extroverted as you are and want to be more successful in the networking platform, what would you
Mhm.
say the first step is for them? Because just like you said, your situation was a life or death situation. So you learned how to gain information from the people that you saw doing something that was leading to something positive. So for the people that
Mhm.
haven't necessarily had to do it, were never put in a position to do the things that you've done and are introverted, how would you say they can go about that process?
Well, I think network is one of those things people overcomplicate, right? Um, it's really networking is like growing a plant. Let's take a rose for an example, right? When you grow a plant, the very first thing you want to do is identify the soil. You want to make sure you got good soil in order to put the seed in, right? Once you do that, once you make sure you got good soil, you make sure everything founded properly, the soil laid properly, the seed inside of the soil, you're in a good position, right? And then the next stage you do is you start watering the seed. And then after time of watering the seed, when it's time, right, you have a rose. That's the same thing with networking. Except when you look at it in real life, it's more so about identifying an objective. Okay, what am I trying to achieve? And then in some cases, what am I trying to overcome? If I'm trying to overcome poverty, well, how am I do that? Right? That's kind of how it goes. So if I'm trying to overcome poverty, for an example, right? I need to be around people who are not in poverty. You see what I'm saying? I
Mm.
need to be in situations that they're in, that
Yeah.
allowed them to not be in poverty. If my goal is to start an Uno club, right? Then the very first thing I need to do as far as identifying the soil, right, is being able to see, okay, who play Uno. And if in this club I
Hmm.
want the greatest Uno players, and I gotta be able to separate, you know, people who don't know how to play that well to the people who do, right? That's determining if you got good soil or not. You see what I'm saying? And then what I do is I go start talking to these people, playing Uno with them. And in that same process, I still be, because seeing whether or not the soil is good and will maintain is an ongoing process. So I still, be playing Uno, talking to them, chopping it up, and then I determine, okay, this is the team I want to put. I put my team together, right? And in that talking to them phase, right, that is when you water the flower, you build the
Mm.
relationships. You keep you keep playing Uno with them. You keep having the conversations with them. Do stuff outside of Uno. You see what I'm saying? But you want to build, and the better you build a relationship with people, right? The more of a network it is. If that makes sense.
Mm. Yes,
So just
sir.
have an objective.
That's that's good, brother. That's good, homeboy. So I like how you emphasize making sure the soil is good as an ongoing process. That's
Mhm.
that's very important, I believe, to recognizing that. Um, it's not networking something that just stops after you get what you wanted, but it's something that is a
Mhm.
continuous cycle because things are ongoing and always changing. Therefore, sometimes that soil may have to be adjusted, or sometimes the way you water in that seed may have to be adjusted as well. So that's really good, brother. So as far as you talking about you watering and reaching back. I feel like, and I think you can agree, but I feel like it's easy for people. It's easier for people to initiate than it is to be consistent with that communication and
Mhm.
networking. Um, how can you say that you trained yourself to being consistent with reaching back after you uh, appreciate or understand your appreciation for your encounter with an individual?
Um, well, how I learned is actually pretty funny, right? So don't judge when I explain how do I get good at it. Well, I'm a naturally outgoing person, right? So it made things easier, you know. But when I was younger, like elementary, middle school, right, and I started, asking, start building relationships with these people. I would ask any and I'll ask any person growing up who had a good head on their shoulder, and I thought they was like being successful to be my mentor, right? And I had learned something. I said, look, I had the first two people I did that, they took me out to eat, right? That's what they do when you're a child, and they call yourself their mentor. They take you to eat, and they would
Hmm.
take me to places because I grew up poor on food stamps, so they'd take me places I never been before. So I made sure that once I met them, I followed up so we can get to that point. Again, have an objective. Have an objective. So we want to get to that point where I'm at a steakhouse at 8 years
Right.
old, steak bigger than my hand. Um, so I got into the habit, and what I did for myself was I would text somebody or meet somebody, right? And I immediately send them a text message of my name and for some situations where I met them from. Then, right, because at my house, we love to get in the habit. Just people in general would be like, "Oh, let's chop it up, let's get up soon, let's have lunch," but never follow through, right? So what I would do is I would start the plans when we exchanging contact information. Okay, I start talking about restaurants. You know, you ever been to this so restaurant? Maybe we can do it there, right? Because that show people you serious, right? When you start going through with the plan. So I do that, But what I recommend for people who are not the most outgoing people is every discipline starts with creating a habit. So find a plan that works for you. I know you can put a reminder in your phone, call so and so in 30 days. Call so and so in two weeks. And I do that in my head mentally because I got so good at it. I say, okay, let me check in on so and so. Instead of scrolling through my Instagram, sometimes I just scroll through my messages and see who I ain't spoke to, or my contact and see who I ain't spoke to in a while. And then I just call and send them a text message saying I'm leaking out. So you got to do that. You can't use the excuse that, oh, I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert, introvert, stuff people like to say. Nah, if you're not outgoing, right, you better get going because that's the only way networking works.
Today, we're going to be making some southern fried okra. I know you guys probably saying, ooh, I don't like okra, it's too slimy or whatever. But I'm going to tell you, the way we're going to deep fry this thing, you're not going to taste any slime. Let's go.
As far as recognizing, you know, who you want to be surrounded by when it comes to your networking, because going back to
Mm-hmm.
your Uno Club analogy, understanding the people that want to play Uno versus the people that are good at Uno, and understanding who you want, in that specific club or environment. How would you say um, you would better your judgment in weeding out those individuals that you want out versus wanting in?
I think that's a great question, Javian, actually, and I think it starts with um, yourself, knowing yourself, right? Having that discernment, you know, for yourself, and then going back to it, the objective, right? Um, Knowing what am I trying to accomplish or what am I trying to overcome, because like I said, we use rose as an example, right? Rose can't grow in any environment. You see what I'm saying? The rose got to grow in a certain environment in order for it to bloom properly. It's the same thing, whatever your plan is, or whatever you're trying to overcome. You're trying to overcome poverty, and you're trying to, take yourself to a different tax bracket for your family, right? Well, you're trying to be you want to be around people who know how to make money and whose thought process is making money, not people who thought process is spending money. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
And you just got to know when to put yourself in those situations and when to get out of certain situations. So with our Uno club analogies, when I'm going out and looking, I'm looking for good Uno players, not good spade players. Now I keep that spades player on the reserve because I might want to start a spades club next. But for right now, this ain't the season. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that's what, and it's just having that social maturity for sure to do that.
Come on now, you just said something that's key. Now this might not be the season, but that don't mean you got to completely get rid of the space, because just like you said.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that go. No,
So
it froze again. Oh,
no, look, I thought so too. But look,
yeah.
I think that's very important to recognize that, you can still capitalize off of the networking that you do, but you have to recognize when to use certain people that you're networking with, because just like you said, it may not be the season. So understanding that, how do you get out of a situation, referring to what you said in your last statement as far as knowing when to stay in a situation, knowing when to get out of it? How do you get out of a situation without burning bridges?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. This when your communication skills come in play, right? And by the way, I should you I should we shouldn't hear that oh, I'm just a bad communicator. You can get better. Get better. That's just become a better communication, because that's key in networking. Right? That is key in networking. Becoming a good communicator, right? Or becoming a great communicator is the only way to be a good networker, right? So that's first off key. But second off, to answer your question directly, I think it comes with, you know, having the right conversation, and watching the time you spend with those people. So right now I'm in a stage of my life where, you know, I'm ready to build more passive income, right? Um, and I grew up on welfare, so clearly nobody in my family can help me with that, right? So now I got to put myself in spaces, right? I got to take myself out of the hood and go into and spend more time, right, in spaces with people who can help me do that, and have those conversations with the people who can't help me. Hey, this is what I'm doing. And if you want to see me succeed, you shouldn't have an issue with it. And if you do, you burnt the bridge, not I. You see what I'm saying? But
Mm,
it's definitely about having that conversation. And sometimes the situation not as simple. Sometimes it is a fragile situation, right? Sometimes sometimes you might be in a relationship with a person, right? And frankly, they might not be the most fruitful for your objective at the time, right? It's the same thing about having that conversation. Like, look, maybe we need to fall back just a little bit, because and the way you have that conversation, you got to make it clear that this has nothing to do with you and everything to do with me trying to reach this goal. You see what I'm
right.
saying? And sometimes, like, if I'm looking for great Uno players, I ain't got to tell the spades players they ain't cut out. You see what I'm saying? I just spend more time with the great Uno players. So it's all circumstantial. So it's just a matter of how you play the game. As Denzel Washington say, it's chess, not checkers.
Right.
That's all I can say about that.
Right.
Yeah, the late great.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, man, boy, you dropping. Come on, man. That's what's up. That's what's up. Okay. So as far as what you said about you being upfront with the person and letting them know what you're trying to do in a specific time or a specific season,
Hmm.
and them having a problem with it, I feel like that goes back to what you said about your soil analogy. You know, recognizing that you may not need the same soil for a situation, or maybe that soil that you was in that situation was bad soil, and you recognize that was
Hmm.
bad soil from that person's response when you say you're trying to do something positive, and they may have a problem with it. That's because that soil wasn't good. So, brother, I'm just the way, man, this conversation is going very well, because the way I'm connecting everything that you're saying, I'm definitely seeing the vision in your mindset. So that's a beautiful thing, man. Um, wow, it's powerful, brother.
Let,
So,
let me give you an example. Let me give you an example, right? This a lot of people don't know this, right? All right, so for one, I grew up in this nonprofit called Create Your Dreams, right? It's a enrichment program that basically help underprivileged and underserved communities, specifically my community, Bankhead community in Atlanta. They got me in the third grade, and for twice, sometimes three times a week, I'm there, and we're getting exposed to all these different activities. I digress. In that, we're around a lot of. That was the first time I saw a white person in person. It's Atlanta. So I was like, man, a real life white person. I said to myself, I'm finna ask them as many questions as I can. And so I did. I was asking them a lot of questions. But they saw how, you know, they saw how bold I was to be able to sit down and like this to say, hey, you and I finna have a conversation about how you can stay in this big house. I want to know. Anyway, in that program, I ended up being a poster kid, right? Because I was outspoken. I went out and and I would network for the organization to help bring. I was helping the organization fundraise and bring money at the age of 8, 9 years old. And so I would we used to have a wish list, and you had a Christmas. We won on the Christmas present. They say it was $150, minimum, right? Man, I would get everything I asked for on the list. The bike alone would be more than the minimum, but it was because I was able to help them build, fundraise because of that. Why am I telling that long story? Right? It might seem irrelevant. Here's why. When it was time for me to go to Morehouse, I didn't get in the first time. I didn't get in the second time, the third, and barely the fourth. When it was time for me to go to Morehouse, um, I didn't know. I had got to a point in the process, so it's just like, man, they really don't want me here, But I didn't want to give up because I got a wealth of people who I know went to Morehouse. There's a reason why I even thought about the school in the first place. So I just started calling everybody in my network. I called people in 100 Black Men and whatnot, and they was able to pull a few phone calls. I even went up there myself, and they was just like, well, if you want to come here, you got to go to the pre-summer enrichment program, PSCP. Pre-freshman summer enrichment program, and you got to pay $3,500. Well, that same nonprofit that I was talking about dropped the $3,500 for me to go to the conditional acceptance program at PSCP. So it just goes to show like how powerful, having people in your corner and having that network can be. Because frankly, without my ability to network, I would have never met you. I would have never been at Morehouse, So I definitely wanted to share that story to show how far, network can take you.
We are still talking all about the season of fall.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help. And slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jermaine Dolly, Mr. Hello Dolly himself, and guess what? You're tuned in to Tea and Worship with my homies, Mignon and Corey. Keep it out, y'all.
Hey, y'all, it's Candy West, and you're watching Tea and Worship with Mignon and Corey.
It's your boy James Fortune, and you are watching my favorite news show, Tea and Worship, with my sis Mignon and Corey.
And if y'all can't already tell from this conversation, LTL, that was that man on Morehouse campus, for sure. Definitely. Folks definitely know who he was, man. And still, even after Morehouse, still networking. And this, I don't want y'all to think, I don't want the audience to think that we just talking right now. Like, LTL actually does everything that he's saying, literally. And it's seen through his life.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, brother. You good.
So, Javian, did I ever share with you how I became a trustee of the college?
No, sir.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen who are watching, beautiful people. So I was on the board of trustees at Morehouse. The board of trustees is the entity of the college that basically determine, they make all the executive decisions for the college. At Morehouse, we usually have 3 student trustees: JV, the junior board trustee, the senior board trustee, and the SGA president. Right. Usually can only run for JBT as a rising sophomore or rising junior. Well, I ran as a freshman, and the reason I learned about the position when I came to Morehouse, I was a very ambitious guy. I was like, I'm going to be involved. I'm going to be in the SGA. I'm going to run for senator. And so I said, I need to go meet all the deans and student activities. I need to go meet everybody I need to meet on campus, who can help me do that. So the first person I met was Dean Booker, the GOAT. Y'all know that's the GOAT, Kevin Booker. Anyway, met Kevin Booker. I went to his office, and I literally, the very first thing I said to him, and sometimes you can be as bold like this. The very first thing I said to him, I heard you were the man on campus, and now I'm for to make this man my friend. What up with you? My name Lanarian. What's your name? He said Dean Booker, and that's how it started. Like, we built the relationship. So one day he took me to, he called me, right? So every day I don't care if I was late to class, I made it my business to come speak to Dean Booker, because he's literally, if you go to Morehouse, you know that Dean Booker is the godfather of Morehouse. Everything run through him. So I had to make sure I made him my dog. And genuinely, like, it wasn't me trying to take advantage. It was just like, man, I heard that you make things happen, right? And I want to get to know the guy who made things happen. And we, every time I just came and I speak to him every day, just asking about his well-being. How your day going today, Dean? Talk to him about football. Anyway, one day he called me and he was just like, you got a suit? So I could put one together. He said, all right, well, meet me on Brown Street by the white van at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock come, I'm pieced up in a little suit, and I get in the van. When I get in the van, I'm the youngest one in the van, and everybody is everybody who run the campus. Head of CASA, president of SGA, the vice president of SGA, the chief of staff, like all these people on this van. And I'm in like la land, because it's like, man, these people doing what I want to do. But I'm finna ask so many questions. They finna say he talked too much by the time they trip over it, and I did just that. Right? They were falling asleep and everything. I ain't care. Whoever was voting, I'm asking. So I'm asking. We talking, and we talking about issues on campus. I got a genuine passion of making sure I left an impact at Morehouse. Like, I'm still committed to that. I still respect. But I asked questions. I said, hey, what y'all thoughts about SGA, being within SGA? We ain't gonna get into all that. But they shared that to me, and then I found out, right, and just having these conversations, that there was a position on campus called the trustee position. It's not a very popular position, and it's very hard to do it right now because the adult trustees, or the professionals that's on the board, they don't quite respect the student trustees. I was like, what? Word. I said, well, maybe I need to run. I'm going to show them who they need to be respected. I'm going to show them, hey, I ain't the one. Right. And they was just like, no, you don't want to do that. These lawyers, just Chick-fil-A CEO, these some big executives. And I'm just like, me too. So I had to show them. So we had a conversation. I learned about the position, immediately switched my gears. I no longer want to be senator. I want to be a trustee. But I didn't know the first step to do that. So what I did was I reached out to the current, JBT, and we had a conversation. And in situations like that, Javian, honestly, that's where you got to be bold. You got to be very clear what your goal is. Hey, listen, Moses, I want to be the junior board trustee just like you. How do I do it? Right. Now it's clear to him what the beginning of our relationship is going to look like. There's a young guy who want to do what I'm doing. Let me help him out. But I got to come at him at a good angle, right? Because I want him to be accepting and actually help me out. I want to be rude. I don't want to be arrogant. You see what I'm saying? I want to be humble, right? And he did. He helped me out. He gave me tips on how to run. And they had a special election for it because the other guy went on the hiatus. And the board was just just in shambles. And so I ran and won. And that's how I got on the board of trustees. And I swear to you, networking is all. That's like the bulk of what you got to do to even do that job. But yeah, that's how I go. I wanted to share that story because it just shows in that, examples of sometimes you got to be intentional about networking. Other times it requires a little subtleness. Um, and yeah, that's kind of how that goes. That's the story on that.
Mm. And I like how you said making your objectives known, making your goal known, being straightforward when you're networking, so that from that point on they know the basis of your relationship. And I feel like that's where some folks be messing up, when they genuinely get a relationship or a network for a specific purpose, yet they don't state that purpose. And that's where some confusion comes into place. So when they try to capitalize off that network or off of the relationship that they made for the purpose that they had intended beforehand, the network or the individual that they networking with is confused because they didn't let it be known beforehand. So I like how you emphasizing the importance of communication, brother. Definitely, man. You
For sure.
man, dropping some gems on this show, man. Once again, man, I appreciate you coming on, my boy, my brother, LTL. We definitely got to go get some more lunch. We might have to go back to that Mexican spot because that thing was good, my boy. We definitely got to get,
especially the margarita.
we definitely got to get some more lunch, brother. But once again, man, I appreciate you. And ladies and gentlemen, if you couldn't tell from that conversation, LTL was that man. Please take note of everything that was said because it is very serious and very, very important as far as networking. Make sure you make your intentions known. You have a basis, you have the soil, and then you have the seed. And you have to continue to water that seed. Watering that seed looks like reaching back to the individual that you networked with. It's not enough just to make that initial action. You have to capitalize after that initial action. And after you make that action, you have to weed out the things or the people that you don't want in that space. And that comes back to changing the soil or catering to that soil. So as we see, networking is a continuous cycle. Family, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, my name is Javion Lorenz Moore. I love you all. Be blessed. Have a great, great rest of your week.